Hello, I'd like to call to order the City Council regular meeting of Tuesday, July 17th, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All council members are here, except Mayor Rayu, who is absent and excused. Moving on, we'll go to the meeting agenda approval. Councilmember McAuliffe.
Yes, I have a motion regarding the meeting agenda approval. And may I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So I move to add to the agenda, under old business, an item regarding the exercising of the repurchase option of the Bothell LLC property by the 360 Hotel.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion is seconded, made by Councilmember McAuliffe, seconded by Councilmember McNeil. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. I am very concerned about the public not having an opportunity to have a voice in this 360 hotel that wants to be located in Bothell. This is a family-owned business who has a high integrity, who are active in their community, and for our walkable community, it is of great value. So I would like the public to have an opportunity to have a voice. I believe tonight we do not have our mayor with us as well, so I really would not like to see a vote on this tonight. I'd like to see it extended so that we could have the public, giving the public the opportunity to respond to this purchase of this property for a hotel and have our mayor involved as well. So I'm asking you to make an extension.
Councilmember McNeil, would you like to speak to your motion?
I seconded the motion for discussion. Thank you.
Okay. I will not be in support of this motion. On April 6th, 2016, the city and Bothell Hotel LLC developer entered into a purchase and sale agreement for the city-owned property currently referred to as Lot 8, totaling nearly 40,000 square feet, located at the corner of Northeast 183rd and Bothell Way Northeast. After 10 amendments to the PSA, the purchase and sale agreement, it was executed on March 10th, 2017. The city and developer entered into a development agreement dated March 16, 2016. The development agreement required the developer to commence construction of the hotel project and complete it by certain dates. In November 2017, at the request of the developer, council extended those deadlines by approximately 6 months. Under the development agreement as amended, the developer was to commence construction of the hotel project not later than June 15, 2018. The developer did not meet that deadline. On June 19th, the council decided to exercise its option to repurchase the property. At this time, I do not have reason to depart from that decision. Additionally, because the developers have threatened to sue the city, on the advice of legal counsel, I will not be commenting further until this matter is fully resolved. I apologize to the public that I cannot comment in greater detail at this time. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, so let's vote on Councilmember McCall's motion.
I apologize, but we are having some technical difficulties. We're going to have to do this by a hand vote.
Okay, so would you please restate your motion so people know what they're voting for and against?
Yes, this is that I move to add to the agenda under old business an item regarding the exercising of the repurchase option of the Bothell LLC property for discussion.
Okay, so I would remind members that in the case of a tie, that would be a vote against. So just know that in advance. So all in favor of Councilmember McAuliffe's motion, please raise your hands. Okay? And all against? So let the record show that Councilmember McAuliffe and Councilmember McNeil voted in the affirmative, and Council members Agnew, Zorns, Olson, and Dewar voted in the negative. Motion fails. Okay, moving on to the projected agenda. Are there any additions? Okay. How would we do the review of public engagements? Oh, it popped up. Talk about timing. Fabulous. Okay. So upcoming public engagement opportunities and events. The I-405 Bus Rapid Transit Project has open houses on Wednesday, July 18th from 6 to 8 at the Renton Pavilion Event Center, and Thursday, July 19th from 6 to 8 at the Kirkland City Hall. Come learn about the project and provide feedback to develop BRT along the I-405 corridor. There's also an online open house available now through July 31st. Visit i405brt.participate.online. Music in the Park, Fridays, July 20th through August 24th at 6:30 until 8 at the North Creek Sports Field number 3. You can review the schedule on www.bothellwa.gov. The Not It's at Just Kidding Around, Wednesday, July 25th from 11 to 12 p.m. at the park at Bothell Landing. Come sing and dance with us at our children's concert series. And the Blythe Park Family Campout from July 28th, or on July 28th from 5 until 10. That's an overnight, July 29th at Blythe Park. Come get away from it all with us for an unforgettable overnight event. There will be a second campout August 25th through 27th, and you can register at www.bothellparks.net. Okay. Moving on, we have a staff briefing from Sabrina Combs on Waste-Wise Residential Multifamily Program.
Thank you, Council. My name is Sabrina Combs, and I am the Sustainability and Projects Coordinator for the City of Bothell, and I'm going to talk to you about WasteWise this evening. So WasteWise is a multifamily waste diversion program, and it is a partnership between Recology Cleanscapes, our solid waste hauler, the City of Bothell under our Bothell Cool Sustainability Program. So Christine McCauley, who is here in our audience, there she is. She is working at Recology Cleanscapes, and what she's doing is going around to our various multifamily properties and talking to them about signing up to be part of the WasteWise program. And what it's going to do is increase our recycling and composting at apartment complexes and condominiums in the City of Bothell. So it's a great way for people to divert more material from the landfill. And we've been talking a lot about the landfill over the last couple of years. So resources and tools that this program provides are waste audits for the property owners. So they're actually going in, and Christine's going out and talking with the property management companies or the owners, and she is doing waste audits and able to look at what types of waste and material they have at that property. She's also doing education to the property manager and the units, the tenants in the building. And then the tenants also get free tools in the form of a recycling tote and compost kit. And that's for each unit. So it's a really great way to help them do the right thing. And how we got started with this program is we looked at a successful program that was available in the city of Issaquah. And after we reviewed the program and saw how wonderful it was for that community and worked so well for them, we decided to investigate using it here in Bothell. So we did 2 focus groups in April on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night. We held one at the Recology store on Tuesday night and one here at City Hall on Thursday night. And the groups were able to look at all of the information we were talking about for the program, from the educational material to the logo, to the different kits and materials we would be handing out, from the bags they would be using to the compost kits. And they gave us feedback and information on that. And we created a large report that explained what would work for the community members involved. And all of the participants lived in multifamily properties. So currently, Christine has been able to contact 17 properties. She has 4 complexes that are signed up, the Junction 104, Emerald Crest, and the Old Town Apartments. That equals 313 units. And 3 complexes are close to signing up with us for this program. And then she's done 3 waste audits so far. So that is the update on our fantastic WasteWise program. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions? I would just like to say thank you. That's a really great start. I think that'll make a really big difference to the program in the city. So appreciate your efforts.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is 4th of July parade recap. Tracy Perkowski from Parks and Planning, well, Parks Department.
Not my presentation, so give me just a second.
I can mute it while you're doing that. Do you want me to mute it?
No, that's all right. There we go. Sorry about that, and thank you for your patience. Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight to give you a quick summary of this year's fantastic 4th of July parades. It was a very, very successful day here in Bothell, and we received a lot of public feedback about what a great time they had. This year's event was supported by over 150 volunteers from Evergreen Church, so a huge shout out to them. We couldn't handle all the folks who come down for our parade without them. And over 90 staff members representing Parks and Rec, Public Works, Police, Fire, as well as the City Manager's Office. Everyone was very happy to have the parade return to Main Street. We estimate that our total crowd size was about 6,500, and thankfully we had minimal calls for emergencies, with 3 issues of seniors fainting from the heat or perhaps from other maladies, and then some standard help with things like Band-Aids, ice packs, bee stings, and stuff like that. With our many new faces on Main Street, staff gave notices to nearly all the businesses, not only on Main Street, but also on the Multiway, where we talked about the chairs and the upcoming road closures. We did have a few issues with people putting chairs in the reserved parking spots, otherwise known as the flex spaces on Main Street. But because of the canvassing, the businesses reached out to us and we responded quickly and went out and removed the chairs. For our children's parade, you can see here that Chick-fil-A was our primary sponsor, and we love the cow who came out. I'm told that this was our largest children's parade in recent memory, and what was really special was that many families made it a family affair, so you see lots of parents in the background. For our grand parade, one of the other changes that we made this year was we asked the local scouting troops to come on out and carry all the banners in the parade, and so we're incredibly appreciative of their community service. And speaking of community service, there are our 2 really awesome Grand Marshals, Lloyd Ness and Maggie Parker. And we were thrilled to have them with us, and they were chosen for their dedication to volunteerism. We had over 90 entries in the Grand Parade, and so don't worry, I won't be like your family members and show you slides of every single one of them, but here are just a few highlights. And of course, it wouldn't be July 4th without thanking our sponsors, so we're incredibly appreciative of their financial help. Any questions?
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. I thought your choice for the Grand Marshals was exceptional. Could you tell me how old Lloyd Ness is and Maggie?
He's 97 and Maggie is 103, and they are still active volunteers at the North Shore Senior Center. So Maggie is there at least once a month, and Lloyd, God bless him, is out there doing their yard work and their landscape and maintenance. So let me just say, when I'm 103, I want to be able to do that as well.
And I want you to know that whenever they went down the parade route, everybody knew who they were.
That's fantastic.
Because they've been in public service for so long. So a great choice. Thank you.
Anyone else like to comment or ask questions? I thought it was fabulous. It was so nice to have it back on Main Street again, and this was the first year I was able to flip pancakes, and I felt so privileged. I got to use the I don't even know what you call them, the pancake makers, the dropper. I thought I'd really moved up in the world when I got moved up from flipping to making pancakes, so it was a lot of fun. So you to all of staff that made it possible. It was a great event. Okay, our next staff briefing is from the police chief, Carol Cummings, on the fireworks, update on fireworks calls. Oh, it's not Carol Cummings. I apologize. That's what it said on the paper.
There you go. Thank you very much. That is true. I am not Chief Carol Cummings. I'm Deputy Chief Denise Nielsen. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our fireworks that we experienced this 4th of July and our responses to the fireworks calls that came in. So before I get to the actual fireworks, though, first I want to talk a little bit about what fireworks, the categories of fireworks that we were dealing with. So there are basically 3 categories of fireworks. The first one is consumer fireworks. Those are all the legal fireworks in areas where in Washington State fireworks are legal. So with these, we're talking about really, they're defined in the RCWs. They've got 50 milligrams or less of explosive materials if it's a ground spinning type of device or a ground device. And it's got 130 milligrams or less of explosive materials if it's an aerial device. The next category are what are called federally legal consumer fireworks. Now, those ones are only legal to purchase and sell and to discharge on Indian reservations. So those are not legal in the city of Bothell at any time. Those are the ones that are the firecrackers, your skyrockets, missiles, things like that. The third category are strictly illegal explosive devices. So those are going to be the big ones. So we're talking about the M80s, M100s, also improvised explosive devices. So if you've got pipe bombs, for example, or tennis ball bombs, and any sort of altered fireworks, for example, if you've got a bunch of sparklers that are all bound together, those are all going to be illegal, and it's actually a criminal to possess them at any point here in the state of Washington. In the city of Bothell, we allow the sales of consumer fireworks from July 1st through July 4th, and then it's also legal for residents to discharge fireworks anytime on the 4th between the hours of 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. So getting to our staffing on the 4th of July. Now, when I'm talking about staffing, this does not include any of the staffing the police department had for parade detail. So that would be blocking roads and walking in the parade, things like that. So when I'm talking about police staffing, I'm talking specifically about the patrol staffing that we had. So the patrol staffing, it included our day shift patrol and our night shift patrol. Now, the day shift worked from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're responsible for responding to all of the calls that come in, whether they're fireworks related or non-fireworks related, the regular calls for service. Our day shift consisted of 1 sergeant and 2 officers, and our night shift patrol consisted of 2 sergeants and 3 officers. Night shift worked from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is a chart that will show you some data for the same periods of time for 2015 through 2018. Now, the blue areas are going to show you the number of fireworks-related incidents that officers responded to. These start off as calls that come into our telecommunications center, and then officers are dispatched to them, so it's reactive work. The orange areas show the fireworks-related incidents that officers responded to each year as a result of proactive or on-view type of fireworks activity. So in other words, the officers are the ones who are reporting these incidents. So what you can see, or what's of note on here, is you'll see a significant drop-off in the orange area. That's the officer-initiated calls, and this is really likely attributed to our patrol staffing issues, including the inability for the past 2 years for us to field a proactive fireworks enforcement team. This next chart has a few more colors added to it, but basically 4 basic areas here. The light blue area, the thicker light blue area indicates that there's really been a significant decrease in non-fireworks related incidents that were officer initiated, the proactive work. The light yellow area indicates that there's been a slight increase from last year in non-fireworks related incidents that were dispatched, but it's really a relatively stable trend beginning with 2013. 2014 is a little bit down there, but for the most part, the rest of the years show pretty stable data. The dark yellow line shows a peak of dispatched fireworks-related incidents in 2015, with a significant decrease after that in 2017 and 2018. And then the dark blue line is going to show the greatest decrease. This is consistent over the last 2 years, showing very little officer-initiated or proactive fireworks-related incidents. So issues and factors that affected this, the primary issue was our patrol, our ability to really staff patrol. Our staff worked really hard in responding to the calls that came in, but we were not able to be very proactive and provide a real visible presence in neighborhoods and throughout the city because they were busy reacting to the calls that came in. And for the second year, this was the second year where we were not able to field the fireworks emphasis team. In previous years where we had the staffing, ability to staff that team, that would be a dedicated team that would actually just focus on being out visible in the neighborhoods, responding to calls, but also making contacts with residents when there were concerns. And then the last thing is always going to be a challenging issue when it comes to fireworks, even in the best of staffing and the best of circumstances, and that's really various enforcement difficulties that come up. So it's really difficult a lot of times in order to charge any sort of criminal activity. You have to witness this incident itself or to issue various infractions. On top of that, usually you see it from a distance. You see it up in the air if it's going to be an illegal one, or you hear a really loud sound and then you go around to try to find it. And a lot of times, you know, either you can't figure out exactly who set it off or you can't prove who set it off, or people are really protective because there are a lot of people who really enjoy the traditions of fireworks, a lot of neighborhood parties and neighborhood camaraderie and relationships that are established, and people are a lot of times very unwilling to point out exactly who's responsible for setting off various fireworks. That's about it. Any questions from anyone?
Does anyone have questions? Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. And I think, given that we received quite a few emails of great concern about the what was on July 4th, the loudness and the booms and the bangs and the feeling of Third World War. I just want to ask you this. You talked about proactive fireworks enforcement team. So to me, is that the education of the public prior to the 4th so that they know what's legal, what's not? How does that team actually work?
So the team, when we've had it in previous years, they are separate from and distinct from the actual patrol officers. So they are only handling fireworks-related calls for service, and they also then, when they're not responding to those, they're staying out in the neighborhoods and driving through the different areas of the city, answering, talking to citizens. People, when they see officers who are out and about, they're more likely to talk and stop or wave down an officer and say, hey, there's something going on over here. And officers respond out and collect fireworks, confiscate fireworks, go and give warnings to different people, and if need to, take enforcement action. Also, they're out visible. There's more of a chance for them to actually see the activity themselves when it happens. We do work to try to provide education to the public beforehand when it comes to fireworks, and we participate in Twitter and also Facebook and other social media and the city website to try to put out information to residents about what legal and illegal fireworks are and about what the rules are in the city of Bothell that they need to comply with as well.
But if I'm hearing you right, this was not done over the past 2 years. Is that correct?
The fireworks emphasis team, as far as being a separate team out and about, that was not done. The public education in advance has been done, including over the last 2 years.
So let me ask you this, because I know that our police have a presence in the 4th of July parade, and I know that that's something that, I don't know how many years they've actually done that, but I know in previous years when I was on the 4th of July parade committee, that was done by volunteers rather than the police presence. So I'm wondering, is there a real challenge to them serving during the day for the parade and then trying to also serve at night?
Well, we work and there's a tremendous amount of volunteers that have participated every year. But for the police department, there's the part of the walking in the parade, but the bigger part is the citizen safety, where we've got to be able to provide people at various intersections, and we have to make sure that we're doing it in a safe way, and directing people properly and blocking off intersections, and that takes a tremendous amount of staffing.
So I also want to state that Lloyd Ness didn't know how to get to the Grand Marshal car, and the police, he went to the police station and they took really good care of him. So thank you.
I'm glad to hear that.
Councilmember Camille.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I was curious, do we have any statistics of other cities around us, how their call volumes are?
I do
In relation
not
to
have
ours?
any of those statistics, and I'm not aware of us ever asking for those in the past.
Okay, I'd just be curious to see if the cities around, surrounding us that have, that it's illegal, what their call volumes look like. Also, do we have any statistics on injuries?
This year, the police department did not receive any reports of injuries to anyone, and I would defer to the fire department, possibly if they responded to any calls of injuries.
We're still tracking that down. I think I've heard may have had 3 or 4 incidents, but nothing significant as far as injuries from.
So they were bodily injuries, not property?
Right. We had one fire confined to a house, carport, and a exterior truck, and that was pretty much it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I know of at least one other fire, just saying. But we put it out.
The tree.
Yeah. It wasn't my fire, I just was there.
Okay, we had 2 fires.
Just saying. Okay. Anyone else want to comment? Councilmember Zorns.
One, from the officers who were patrolling, did they give any feedback of sense of out-of-towners coming into Bothell where they could legally discharge fireworks? When I was out doorbelling last year, people were commenting that people who live close to Kirkland noticed that people would run across the street to discharge fireworks, and the news is talking about that. Did you hear any rumble on?
I did not hear anything about that, but I also did not ask that question.
Okay, well, I'm sure if it was a problem, someone would have said something. Then the next question is, I'm not really sure how to phrase this, because I did look at some of the legal language of fireworks and Class C and did some homework on Class C, and my search said, well, it's kind of a old term that's really not used to describe fireworks anymore, but I did talk to someone that I'm not related to who was letting aerials off, and they said, well, they're Class C, they're legal because their combined weight doesn't exceed whatever that is. So I think there's a lot of confusion on what people can light a fuse.
It's very confusing, even for officers and who have training in this, because there are legal aerials, and it has to have under a certain amount, the 130 milligrams of explosives, versus another aerial that if it has any more than that, 140 grams, that would make it illegal. And there's such a variety of fireworks, and after it's been lit, especially trying to determine what it had is really challenging.
We don't have a forensic firework team, do we? I think that's all my questions and clarification that I was looking for. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for providing the report. I was really curious. We did receive a number of emails, and I am concerned because the incident in our neighborhood happened because a firework tipped over, and then it went off into a crowd of children and hit a tree and started that fire. So I'm impressed that we don't have more incidences, because I did think it was quite different this year from my perspective in terms of just feeling completely surrounded. So thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're moving on to council committee reports. Does anyone have a committee report? Councilmember Zorns?
I have several. One was LTAC met today, and something that would interest City Council and probably some of the folks in Bothell is that Street Sense has finished 2 of their 3 areas of the research that they've been doing, and they will be here August 21st from 9 to noon, and will discuss their findings and make their initial recommendations. That's the 21st. And then there's still an active concern on wayfinding signs along the slough that direct people up into Bothell. And I think we've got a good first step going, but there's an active concern on that. Then the campus traffic community, the CTC, it's changed what it stands for, met last week, and several things are going on with the campus. One is that the campus is going to have valet parking the first 4 weeks of fall quarter. And then the city is looking to have Beardsley and all the work done on Beardsley Boulevard done by August 15th to allow campus to get ready for its fall quarter. And I just want to thank the city and our contractor for working hard to make that happen. They found an abandoned septic tank right there in the middle of all their work, and they're dealing with asbestos lines, so they have their work cut out for them. Campus is also going to start their parking structure on the west side of the hill, near where right where the corporation yard is right now, in the summer of 2019. And they will also do surface parking between the wetlands sidewalk up to the north parking garage. That's going to be surface parking there. And then the corporation yard's going down by the Chase House, and the fruit trees are going away. Then solid waste, is Sabrina still here? Has she left? She's been kind of our eyes and ears for this. I have not been able to go to meetings, but what I've been tracking on solid waste is they're updating their comprehensive plan, getting that together. They're also very productive, proactively looking for being aggressive in recycling, a zero waste of resources by 2030. And from everything that I've been able to track on them, it's a very collaborative effort. I thought this was kind of a sad statistic. 138,000 tons of recyclables are now affected by the China sword. And for us, it's mixed paper and newspaper that's being impacted. India is still being mentioned as an alternative to send recycling to. And Kirkland looks like it will be willing to host a new Northeast Recycling and Transfer Station. And that's the sum of my reports.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Olson, no? You gave me the look. I thought that was a yes. Anyone else? Councilmember McAuliffe?
Thank you. And I just would like to thank the Olsons, who have the rock store in Bothell, the jewelry store. They kind of managed to have our sign returned to Bothell, welcome to Bothell for a day or a lifetime, supported by many of our clubs, the Rotary Kiwanis and others, and we're glad to have the sign back, and for everybody who supported it. So, welcome to Bothell for a day or a lifetime is back.
Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you. I have a couple. I'll start with Seashore Transportation. Had a fabulous presentation this past week on the Painfield commercial terminal that's being built. Couple fun facts. The actual Payne Field was started in 1939, 600 feet above sea level, and it was a facility used for World War II. Interestingly, they used to have nuclear weapons there, and they used to eat their lunch on those nuclear weapons. So I found that quite interesting. Boeing's plant at Payne Field up there, they're two separate businesses, but the Boeing plant itself is large enough to fit Disneyland inside of it. So I found that to be a very interesting topic. The airport at South Payne Field, outside of SeaTac, brings in about $25 billion, employs about 80,000 people. It is by far the single largest economic development center in our region, and it actually tops SeaTac. The commercial flights, the new terminal that I mentioned, they're going to be building that, should be done here shortly, sometime in January. The FAA will approve it, hopefully. If and once approved, 3 airlines will fly out of there, short trips, primarily West Coast. Largest plane out of there will be a 737, but it'll fly American Airlines, United, and Southwest. They'll have 24 flights in and out per day. Probably the single biggest problem they're going to have is the transportation around the airport, which will be traffic with that many employees are working in that area. And then they don't have parking, believe it or not, for the people coming to it. So they'll need to find alternative means to get people to and from, and then also parking. Then we have the 522 elected leadership group. I want to thank the city. We had the opportunity to host the 522 elected leadership group right here in Bothell. Fabulous conversation around 522, getting people from Bothell, Snohomish County through Bothell into Seattle. Probably the biggest piece that I took out of the meeting was that we have continued bottlenecks that will be 145th. And if anybody's traveled 145th, you know that on either side of 145th, they're butted right up to private property. So there would be a lot of work that needs to be done to acquire that land to be able to build right away for bus rapid transit. And we all know bus rapid transit means it's rapid. And if we have a bottleneck, it won't be so rapid and the times won't be reliable. Therefore, people probably won't take them and they'll take other means to get around. So another topic in that meeting was on our park and ride that we have coming to the city, and ensuring that we have a voice in the location of that park and ride, opportunities for partnerships with that park and ride. Public partnerships would be transit-oriented development, and ensuring that the placement of that serves us for an economic development as well. So there was conversations about different locations, and I brought up that you have Lake Forest Park, Kenmore, and Bothell that are going to get park and rides, and they need to have a robust conversation with our cities about where the best placement is, because we have opportunities to have those as economic drivers at night when people want to come to our cities. If we have parking problems, we can use those park and rides for additional parking to help out our businesses in our city. We talked a little bit about the bus rapid transit on 405. The deputy mayor serves on that leadership group, and I think they're going to be having their meeting coming up here soon. The interesting piece is the Brickyard park and ride is continued to be a bottleneck as well on the 405 piece. But taking it out of the whole thing, I think our biggest message is making sure that we have a voice at the table when it comes to 522 and 405, since we're the centerpiece here, and ensuring that the placement of those park and rides fit within what we're trying to do within our city. There was a little bit of discussion around placement of the Sound Transit parking or the bus facility, but not much. I think they're still looking into that. Another small piece of affordable housing came up on the park and rides as well. So that's the ELG. Then I had the ETP, Eastside Transportation. We talked about the WashDOT came and gave a presentation on the I-405 corridor. Interestingly enough, the south end is fully funded, and we need to continue our voice fight to ensure that the north end gets our piece of the $450 million project here local to Bothell. The tolling continues. There's no conversation about increasing the toll from the $10 pricing now. There was a little bit of discussion about the heat maps. We hear a lot about heat maps. Heat maps mean where the traffic starts to slow down. The north end has been improved because of the lane that was added northbound, but we continue to have problems heading south in the AM, and that those tolls are still high. So they're looking at the alternatives for that. I just briefly brought up the bus rapid transit for 522. 405 is going to be the same. If we can't get people from Canyon Park down to Bellevue as an example, reliable, frequent transportation, it's not really bus rapid transit. Interestingly, they are forgetting the piece from Canyon Park to I-5. And what's interesting about that is that if we continue to see the growth on the north end of our city, what happens is more people are starting to migrate down south. They're going to want to go to Canyon Park area, get over to Link Light Rail. But if we don't have the capacity to get them to the rail, they're probably going to continue to go 405, which is going to bottleneck 405, and then we don't have the BRT there. So quite a bit of conversation around transportation and what we do to fix the bottlenecks. The PIC, I went to the PIC as well this month. And we had several conversations around affordable housing, recycling. Councilmember Zorns had brought up the recycling issues that we have. We had a conversation around homelessness. The one thing that I would like to say about homelessness, we need to figure out, and there was a little bit of a conversation about this, but we need to figure out a way to stop grouping homelessness into one category, because we have different types of homelessness throughout different communities. Homelessness is not just people living on the street in tents. It could also be people that are in between housing. It could be kids that are homeless that go to our school district. So we need to make sure that we have different types of programs available for the different types of homelessness that we have. And that was a very robust conversation at the PIC meeting. I talked to several council members outside of our city about this, and making sure we're starting to have that conversation around not grouping all of homelessness into one. Future levies, I think probably, there's a bunch of them on here, but I think most important to us is our public safety levy. And talking to other leaders around the region, it's very important. If we can't go, make sure we're proactive policing for fireworks. How do we ensure that the people within our community understand what they're supposed to have? Same thing with fire if we can't respond quick enough. So I think ensuring that we get out, talk to folks within our community about public safety and what it means, not just reacting to it, but being proactive about it. I think it's very important. Lastly, on the PIC, I'm happy to inform council that I'm on another committee, and it's the Regional Policy Committee. I'm extremely excited to be part of this committee because this committee sets policy for our region, and we have a voice. And so ensuring that we're talking about all the things that matter regionally, but importantly, right here at home in Bothell for us. We have a lot of assets to us, the Sammamish River, North Creek Forest, Shelton View, Wayne, all these different assets that we have locally, our transportation needs. We're in the center hub, so it's important that we make sure that our voice here in the north end is heard. And I'm super proud to be on that committee so I can make sure that we're heard. So that is my update. Thank you.
Phew. Okay. Well, I just wanted to briefly add, I think I gave an update on the current discussion around funding for 405. Do you guys remember that conversation? Okay. So currently the state is trying to find funding. It's really centered around bonding the tolls and creating one corridor between 167 and 405 because they have to get authorization from the legislature, which is a 60% vote. So if you make the corridor longer, then you have more people you impact, you have a better chance of that vote. But there are a lot of steps to make our little section of 405 at the capacity we need. And so that's going to be a big topic, I think, this next session. Anyway, I had one brief update. I serve on the Transportation Policy Board with PSRC, Puget Sound Regional Council, and we approved the project selection recommendations for 2021. And I just wanted to note that we did receive or will receive funding from two different sources. Because we live in King County and Snohomish County, we're able to enter into both and compete in both pools. So we received money for widening Bothell Everett Highway from 240th to Reeder Way from both Snohomish and King County for 2021, so it's not going to happen right away. And then in King County, we also made the cut for preservation and overlay on Juanita Woodinville Way. And then in Snohomish County, we received money for North Creek Trail Section 4. So in 2021, we're gonna make out okay. So that's my brief update. I think now we're ready to move on to visitor comments.
Could I ask one question?
Sure.
Councilmember McNeil, would you tell me what PIC is?
PIC is the Public Issues Committee, where all 38, excluding Seattle, cities on the east side, north end cities get together and discuss the issues that happen throughout our region.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to visitor comments, we do have a stack here, three people. I would like to remind everyone, each person addressing the council will give his or her name in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless the council grants further time, shall limit the address to 3 minutes. No person other than the council and the person having the floor will be permitted to enter into any discussion either directly or through a member of the council without the permission of, in this case, myself, because the mayor's not here. So first on the list is Alif Noorani.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Alif Noorani of address 3500 188th Street Southwest, Suite 121, Linwood, Washington, 98037, and I am the owner's representative of Bothell Hotel, LLC. We remain fully committed to the development of a Bothell, Marriott Spring Hill Suites and Marriott Town Place Suites dual-branded hotel, and we are here tonight to do everything we can to get the project back on track with the city. For the past year, we have worked closely with the city and its staff to develop a successful project that will serve as an anchor to downtown Bothell's commercial and tourism development. The City Council received briefing on our project at the June 19th City Council meeting. That briefing contained significant misrepresentations and omissions, which we have written to the City Council. At that City Council meeting, the Council instructed Bothell Hotel to work with the City to negotiate a second amendment to the development agreement before the July 17th City Council meeting. Following City Council's direction, the very next day in good faith, we reached out to the city's Community Development Director for a meeting to work out on a revised schedule for an amendment to the development agreement. He organized a meeting with city staff on June 26th, and at that meeting he advised he would be sending us a draft of the revised schedule for our input, and then we should reach out to the city manager for an amendment to the development agreement. On June 28th, he emailed us a draft of the amended schedules, to which we timely responded. We made a 6-figure offer to the city manager for an amendment to the development agreement. That same afternoon of June 29th, the city manager emailed us stating there was not enough time to reach an agreement and that she would be proposing a 60-day extension to City Council. We did not hear anything further from the city manager or the city staff, so we were optimistic that things were moving in the right direction towards an agreement. Only last week, on July 12th, the city's outside attorney told us that the City Council itself had not requested city staff to place a 60-day extension on the City Council's agenda. We are absolutely perplexed by this turn of events. At the last meeting, the City Council directed the staff and us to work together on reaching an amendment. We did so in good faith. We started negotiating immediately and thought the parties were moving towards a consensus on the timeline for the start of construction. We also responded to the City Council's suggestion that an amendment would require an extension fee. We were able to meet the City Council's imposed deadlines. It was the city manager herself that unilaterally requested a 60-day extension. The city has since gone dark on us. May I continue?
If it's very, very short.
It is short. It is our request that the City Council grant the City Manager's proposal for an extension to the negotiation timeframe so that the amended negotiations can continue and the hotel project can get back on track.
Thank you. Next is Shaiza Damji.
Thank you. My name is Shaiza Damji of 3500 188th Street, Suite 121 in Linwood, Washington, 98037. Together with my family, my sister is in the last row here today with me, and my husband, we own Bothell Hotel LLC. We also own and operate 6 other hotels from Seattle to Bellingham, 5 of which our company has developed from the ground up. First and foremost, we are highly experienced hoteliers. We are regarded as one of the top hotel operators in the Pacific Northwest. We are long-term hold hotel developers and owners. In the 42 years since our parents started the company, we have never sold a hotel. We have also never sold a piece of land purchased for hotel development. We believe that the City Council may have been misinformed, may be hearing allegations of developers flipping land for profit. That is not us. We are not land speculators. This long-term, and we don't even sell our hotels. We invest in our communities. We support our communities. This long-term perspective enables us to develop better hotels and to invest in both our hotel product, whether this is an upfront design and construction and working with the cities to meet their visions, or an ongoing renovation and upgrades. We have designed this hotel so that our guests can maximize their support of local businesses, whether it is the restaurants on Main Street, the restaurants that are coming up across the street, McMenamins, Seattle Electric Bike, renting bikes from them. We have designed this hotel so that we can maximize the guest use of these local and patronage of these local businesses. We were ready to start construction by the first week of September, even taking account of city-imposed delays and roadblocks. We had already filed the second round of submittals following city staff review for the clearing and grading permit, utilities permit, and right-of-way permit. We had already filed applications for a foundation building permit, a shoring building permit, and an underground plumbing building permit, and had received city staff's comments on all 3 of these. We are ready to resubmit our second round submissions on all 3 of these, as well as the full building permit. I'm a former chairperson of the Washington Lodging Association and serve on Marriott International's Franchisee Advisory Council. I serve on the Mayor of Seattle's recently formed Small Business Advisory Council. Our company is actively involved in tourism in Seattle, Snohomish County, and Whatcom County, where we have had leadership roles in developing Snohomish County's Tourism Promotion Authority and lodging tax advisory committees and other aspects of the community. We have indicated our interest in bringing that same kind of community involvement to Bothell. We remain committed to the vision of this hotel development and have acted in good faith with the City of Bothell throughout this process, and we intend to continue to do so. We also encourage the City Council to act in good faith to grant the request proposed by the City Manager to extend the negotiation timeframe by 60 days in order for us to continue to work out an amendment to the development agreement. In addition, Deputy Mayor mentioned 2 things. She said that the development agreement was entered into in March 2016. It was entered into in March 2017. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Michelle Gasparek.
Hi, thank you. My name is Michelle Gasparek. I live at 10138 Northeast 187th Street in Bothell. I just wanted to point out to the community that the Bothell Kenmore Reporter had an article dated on July 3rd, 2018. The title was Kenmore City Council Considers a Reusable Bag Ordinance. In the article, it said that the policy could prohibit retailers from providing single-use plastic bags to customers at checkout and require that they charge a 5-cent fee for each paper bag supplied. So I'm just here today to ask if City Council would consider and just kind of follow the lead of Kenmore in looking at our single-use, non-compostable plastic bag use in our city. Kenmore recognizes the waste and pollution of single-use plastic bags as a global and a local issue. And Kenmore will join, if it's passed, Kenmore will join other local cities, Seattle, Kirkland, Edmonds, Issaquah, Shoreline, Tacoma, all of Thurston County, in a single-use plastic bag ban. A little history of plastic bag bans. Denmark seems to be the first country in the world that imposed a plastic bag ban. It was in 1993. I also read that the European Union will require an 80% reduction of plastic bags by the year 2019. So this is the direction that the whole world is moving in. In the United States, the first city to do so was San Francisco, and that was in 2007. There's various reasons for bag bans around the world. In Africa, there's been bag bans as a measure to prevent certain kinds of disease transmission, malaria specifically. In Asia, they're working hard in Texas to make this happen. Cattle ingest it and can die. In the Middle East, camels die from ingestion. So there's all kinds of reasons that it's being banned. Primarily in our area, it would be marine life preservation. And if you'll indulge me, the Bothell Vision Statement, which I think is kind of speaks nicely to what I'm talking about, states the following: that we believe that human activities should be considered as one component of a complex system of relationships among living things and their environment, and that we have a responsibility to ourselves and to future generations to seek a mutually supportive balance within this system. And I think I'm up, but just one other thing. It also states in our Bothell Vision Statement that it's our responsibility to protect, preserve, and enhance those features of the natural environment which are most sensitive to human activities, and to promote protection of native wildlife habitats, recognizing that the human species is but one of many within the Bothell area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I only had those three. Okay. So we have an executive session for potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101I, and that will be 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Are you sure? We'll start with 20. Our track record's not that great. Bothell City Council is back from executive session. And we're moving on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda. Second.
So motion made by Councilmember Agnew, seconded by Councilmember Olson. Does anyone want to speak to the motion? I know we don't usually do this, but this is a longer than normal consent agenda, and I just wanted to point out to the public that the scorecard is in here, which goes over the council goals. And I thought it was worth noting how much work we're doing and the couple of items that really have to do with the cooperative purchasing agreement with Sourcewell, and what we're doing to try to save money for the citizens of Bothell. So I just wanted to note that. We are doing hand votes all night, so those in favor of passing the consent agenda, please raise your hands. Say aye. Motion carries unanimously with Mayor Rayum absent and excused. Moving on, AB 18-120, resolution to permit alcohol in rental house in Cedar Grove Park. And here to present is Tracy Perkowski.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This evening for this agenda bill, the City of Bothell Municipal Code prohibits alcohol in the city's parks with the exception of the Lytle House, which with the exception of the Lytle House, and that is for special events, and you need the special permits from the state of Washington. As such, the residential house located in Cedar Grove Park is also covered by the prohibition that no alcohol is permitted. In a separate agenda item, which you'll be discussing next, staff is recommending renting this dwelling out as a residential property and partially using the funds to pay a part-time parks maintenance worker. Prohibiting residential tenants from possessing or consuming alcohol in their own home may reduce the appeal of the Cedar Grove rental house, and it'll also be incredibly difficult to enforce, as there's not a reasonable method by which to monitor whether a tenant possesses or is consuming alcohol within the dwelling. As such, staff is recommending that alcohol be permitted in the house only. It will not be permitted in the yard or in other sections of the park. All other park rules, such as no smoking, will also be in effect. This exception that staff is requesting this evening for alcohol inside the dwelling will only be in effect when the house is being used as a residential property. Therefore, we are recommending that you pass this resolution tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move the recommended action.
Second.
You gotta be faster. Motion made by Councilmember McNeil and seconded by Councilmember McAuliffe. Please raise your hands in the affirmative in support of the motion. Motion passes unanimously with Mayor Ream absent and excused. Moving on, AB 18-121, approved lease template for residential rental of the house located in Cedar Grove Park. I'm sorry, Tracy Perkowski, you're back.
I know. So on the grounds of Cedar Grove Park, there is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that was previously occupied by a caretaker. The caretaker paid reduced rent in exchange for limited maintenance responsibilities within the park, and the former caretakers moved out in 2017. Staff reviewed various options and determined that the caretaker arrangement is no longer a prudent use of funds. This is because Human Resources and Legal advised us that continuing the caretaker approach would require a paid salary, particularly for workers' compensation and insurance purposes, even if the house were rented at a below market rate. As an alternative, staff is recommending that the house be rented at market rate and use the funds for any necessary repairs to the residence and for hiring a limited-term part-time maintenance worker to perform the parks-related tasks that were previously performed by the caretaker. It's estimated that a tenant could be in place in September, and after the anticipated revenues are obtained from the final lease, staff will return to council as needed for the authorization of a regular part-time parks maintenance worker position. As I discussed in the last agenda bill, since this house is located within the city park, park use rules and regulations listed in our municipal code will apply. Staff is recommending this evening that the City Council authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a lease agreement with terms substantially similar to those contained in the attached lease template to your packet. And in addition, and I have to read this one precisely because it is from our legal department, leasing the house to a private party may be considered a type of disposition of the property pursuant to Chapter 39.33 RCW. So staff is recommending that the City Council declare the possessory interest to the house to be surplus property during the duration of the proposed residential lease. Do you have any questions?
Clear as mud to me. Any questions?
Can I ask the city attorney a question?
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
Okay. So normally when we get rid of surplus property, there's a resolution that's created that says we no longer need this for these purposes, so it's declared surplus. For the purposes of the lease, we're not declaring the house as surplus property or the underlying land as surplus property, but we are declaring the city's interest in being inside the house whenever we want. We're saying that that is surplus because we don't need that for an everyday function of city business. So for the purposes of the RCW that was quoted, the city's access to the interior of the house is surplus to its daily needs. Therefore, we are able to lease it out without interfering with any of the other regular city functions.
And is there any liability for the city when it's being leased?
Yes. If there is something that is obvious that needs repair and we don't repair it, then there's always liability. It'd be the same liability if you leased your own home to somebody else, if there was a either known or should have been known defect that could cause human injury, then you are obligated to take care of that.
Okay, same liability. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. And I would just like to know, Tracy, I visited the property and the house, and I was very impressed that we are now letting it out for lease. I think that's really important. But how do you advertise this? How does the public know?
So I'm actually going to defer to Jacqueline, our facilities manager, because it's her department that will be responsible for that.
Our intention with this lease at this point is to hire a real estate professional to market the property and determine what that market value of the rent is. So they wouldn't maintain and manage the property, but that initial marketing of the property, we'd hire a real estate professional to do.
And to follow, if I may, and do we know what that cost will be?
We don't yet. We were waiting for the council decision tonight to move forward with that research and that process.
It's something I would be kind of interested in when you look at, okay, what is the rental and what is the real estate?
You mean
real estate.
what the actual lease amount will be for the house?
Yeah, I'd like to know what that is, compare that to what it's going to cost us for a real estate agent to lease it.
Okay, yeah, I don't have that information at this moment, and it would be a one-time upfront cost.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly if it's cost prohibitive, we would reevaluate that process.
Okay, thank you.
Do we anticipate that it will, the rental will cover this part-time maintenance worker as well as any maintenance for the house? Or do we have any idea?
So once we know what the market rate is and if there are any additional repairs, then we'll be able to know the amount of funds available to pay for the part-time person and be able to adjust accordingly.
Great, thanks. So Councilmember Zorn has asked for a point of personal privilege.
I just wanted to thank you, Tracy, for acting as interim parks. It's, as I've watched you, being new to this job, as I've watched you, I've realized that it's a big job. And I just really appreciate how you really stepped up to the plate and capably kept the city together in the Parks Department. So thank you. And don't go anywhere. Stay here in Bothell, okay?
I'd like to echo that because you really brought us through a critical time with Wayne Golf Course, and your efforts, your valiant efforts are much appreciated, so thank you. And we're glad you're still here. Okay, so I am happy to take a motion.
I move the recommended action.
Second.
Okay, a motion made by Councilmember McNeil and seconded by Councilmember McAuliffe to declare the house located on Cedar Park Cedar Grove Park to be surplus property during the term of the anticipated residential lease, approve the residential lease template to be utilized for the house in Cedar Grove Park, and authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a lease agreement with provisions similar to those in the lease template. All those in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously with Mayor Rayam absent and excused. And we're on to AB 18-122, to consider appointments of pro-con committees to prepare voter pamphlet statements for the public safety levy lid lift and the capital bond measure for November 6, 2018 general election.
Hi. That'll be me.
City
Yes,
Clerk?
I just wanted to review that we adopted, obviously, the two ballot measures on June 19th, and council now needs to appoint members to the pro or con committees. Staff advertised for those committees June 20th through July 9th. And we received two letters of interest, one from Carrie Westerbeck and one from Bill Moritz, both on the pro side, and 0 con letters. Subsequently, after publication of this agenda packet, we received 2 more, one from Del Spivey and one from Sarah Glarum, and those are both in your council folders tonight. They are also pro, for the pro committees. We have not received any for the con committees, so tonight we are asking that council can appoint up to 3 members per ballot measure, and we are asking that council do that this evening. Because we did not receive any notices from the con committees, any letter of interest, I will notify King County Elections and Snohomish County Elections of our advertising efforts. They have the ability, or if they choose to, they can go out and solicit interest to have committees write the con statements. They do not need to. If they don't find anybody to write those statements, they will list in the ballot pamphlet that nobody came forward to write con statements for either ballot measure. So tonight, we're just asking that you appoint members to both con committees, or pro committees, sorry.
Now, if King County or Snohomish County appoint someone, those persons would have to live within the city of Bothell?
They do not.
Any other questions? Councilmember Olson?
No, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
So I move we appoint Del Spivey and Bill Moritz to the Pro Bond Committee, and should we do these in 2 motions, one for each committee?
Yeah, that might be clear, if you want to make it clearer.
It's your motion, you can do it however you want. If you do it separately, there's a chance for less confusion. If you were to make the motion of these 2 people for the bond and these 2 people for the levy, and people disagreed and wanted to switch them around, that can get pretty confusing. So if you did just one at a time, that might be easier.
Do you need a second?
Oh, we can do 2. And if you look at who said that they would go on both, it might be cleaner just to give each person 1 to be on, and then there'd be 2 and 2.
So just for clarification, Laura, I thought you said 3.
You can go up to 3,
appoint up to
but we would be
3.
We would be doubling up. People would be serving on more than 1 in that case, and I think their preference is not to serve on more than 1.
So you can appoint up to 3 people to serve on each pro committee. And there's nothing that says that other people can't help the pro committees write their statements. They can have as many people as they want help write it, but we can appoint up to 3. And 3 of your the submittals expressed interest in serving on both.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor.
Second.
Okay, so a motion made by Councilmember Olson to put Bill Moritz and Del Spivey on the Pro Bond Committee, and seconded by Councilmember Zorns. All in favor? Or is there any discussion? Sorry.
I just want to speak to my motion, that Bill
Absolutely.
Moritz said this was his preference. He said he would be on either, but this was his preference.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm fine with Bill being on the bond, but I was wondering if Sarah wouldn't be a better partner with him on that.
So we would be asking Sarah potentially to be on both, correct?
Can we ask Sarah?
Can we ask a member of the audience what they're, if they're okay with, are you okay with being on both? Okay, okay. I was worried because she had expressed to me, I'm not sure. But if she's happy with that, would you like to withdraw your motion? Or do you want to vote on it?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we select Bill Moritz and Sarah Glum for the Public Safety Bond Pro Committee.
Okay. Seconded by Councilmember McNeil. All those in favor, do we want to speak to the motion? Speak to the motion?
We're talking about the bond.
We're talking about the bond, so it would be.
And you're saying Sarah and Bill versus
Dell.
Dell
Dell and
not
Bill.
having Dell. Could we have all three of them on there?
You could.
I think there's some politics we're concerned about here. How about if we vote on the motion, and if someone else that's not voted in wants to work on it, they can. Fair? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to appoint to the Pro Bond Committee Bill Moritz and Sarah Glum. All those in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. 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 Okay, motion carries unanimously. Councilmember Olson, did you want to do this second?
I move that we appoint Del Spivey and Carrie Westerbeck to the Pro Levy Committee.
Do we know that Mr. Spivey's okay with being on? Okay, I didn't get to read that at last minute. Okay, so the motion is made by Councilmember Olson to appoint Carrie Westerbeck and Del Spivey to the Pro Levy Committee, and seconded by Councilmember Zorns.
Second.
All those in favor, oh, actually, anyone want to speak to that? Okay, sorry, I want to make sure I don't. All those in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously with Mayor Rayam as an excuse. That was relatively painless. Okay, I think thank you, Sarah Glum, and all those who volunteered. We really appreciate your volunteering. Okay, so now to the fun part of the evening. The appointments to the Shorelines Board, and a separate motion will be required for the approval of the Shorelines Board scope of work. So I believe the city clerk has ballots for us.
Yes.
For 5 rounds.
So, yes. So just a brief update. Tonight, you interviewed 13 people, actually 12. One did not appear. 12 people to serve on the Shorelines Board. The city needs to conduct an update to the 2013 Shorelines Board Master Program by June 2019. So in February, we appointed 4 people. That would be Ann Agard, Patrick Ewing, David Bain, and David Cox, but we did not have enough people appointed to fill the board, so we went out for re-recruitment. So tonight, we're asking you to appoint members, so we'll do that first. I have voting tally sheets here that I'm going to ask you. We'll go multiple rounds if needed. We need 4 votes per person, and the first people to get 4 votes will serve. We have 3 positions open. So that's what we'll do first. And as part of this agenda bill, we are also asking the City Council to approve the Shorelines Board scope of work. And Mike Kutterman is here to answer any questions you may have regarding that. So I don't know if you want to take questions first, if you have any, or if we just want to go to vote.
Well, maybe it would impact our decision if we knew what the scope of work was. So why don't we review the scope of work first? Is everyone okay with that? Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this is on the back part of your agenda, Bill. There are really three main areas that are requiring an update from the state. So we're doing a required update from Department of Ecology. We have to do this every few years. And the reason for the scope of work that we're asking you to approve this evening is to keep the work of the Shorelines Board focused on just those items so that we don't spend a lot of extra time on other items that we don't have to do at this time. So the main things that are identified by ecology is really to review amendments that have come to the chapter in the RCW, legislative changes that have come over the last few years, to make sure that we're consistent with those. We also have to make some amendments to our best management practices. That's what we use to set some of the regulations, so we'll update that. There may be some changes to our comprehensive plan and our development regulations. As a result of that, we want to make sure that we maintain internal consistency so that our policies and our regulations are both saying the same things. That's one, just based on a cursory review by staff, we don't see anything at this point, but those things could come up as we're working through the process, so that would be another aspect potentially. And then finally is just to do some additional analysis to address changing local circumstances, and this primarily has to do with the purchase of the Wayne Golf Course. So the Shoreline Master Program requires that we do a specific designation for the shorelines that we regulate within the city of Bothell. We have two areas, the Sammamish River and North Creek. We also have the Swamp Creek that's in our urban area, and we have specific designations for the shoreline along those bodies of water and the uses that can occur, the activities that can occur within those. So with the Wayne Golf Course purchase now, there was a designation that had to do with the use, the golf course activity. Since that will be changing, that's probably the main area we'll be looking at changing a designation. The others, we don't anticipate doing any changes at this time. So those are the main areas that we're highlighting as far as the scope.
Does anyone have questions? Councilmember McNeil, you're breathing deeply.
I did have a question. My mic's on?
Yep.
I got you covered. I had a question on, is it appropriate for somebody who works for the city to be on a board?
It's not inappropriate. I don't see a conflict. As long as they disclose it and they're very open and upfront, there's no reason not. So whether or not it's not really a question. It's not illegal, I guess is my answer. Whether or not it's appropriate, I don't know that it's ever happened in the city before. I'm aware of the matter. It was discussed with me. I didn't see any pitfalls. We tried to think through like what could the damage be, and we couldn't come up with anything. So we're definitely willing to address it if and when something comes up that would be problematic, but we couldn't contemplate of such a circumstance.
So it's more of an advisory position?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? I had a question, and maybe it's in here and I missed it. Is this the docket for just 2018, the three items, or did I miss something? Is it, or does it go? Does it go to June 2019?
We are required to complete this update by the end of June of 2019. So this carries us through that part of the docket.
So with this scope of work, are you just assuming you'll finish it by 2019 and then there won't be a need for shorelines till the next update, or?
At this point, that's what we would anticipate.
Okay.
Unless there's some other direction or issues that come up prior to that time. And as I understand it, that's one of the reasons that we're appointing a board now, is that there really hasn't been anything for the board to do much since the last update in 2012 or 2013, I believe.
Okay. I guess I'm just wondering if, I've been on the Landmark Board. I was on for 10 years, and it's probably different from the Shorelines Board, but I do think sometimes boards come up with ideas or directions on their own that can be useful or helpful or worthwhile. And I guess I'm just wondering, if that were to happen, we could revisit and decide as a council to let them do that?
That could then become part of the docket that the council gives them to work on.
Okay.
Our purpose in narrowly defining their scope at this time is because we have limited staff resources and limited budget that a small grant that we get from the state to do this work. And we really don't have the ability to expand beyond that scope and complete the work by June of next year. But certainly if there are things that come up during that process, we can put those, in the parking lot and say those are things that we will take to the council. And if you want the board to pursue that, then we could come back to you with, this is what it would take in staff resources and time, and put that on the annual docket for your consideration.
Okay, that sounds fair to me. I was just kind of curious how that worked. So we don't see any potential problem with a city employee. Who's, as community development, staffs the Shorelines Board? And then is it okay to ask, I can't remember where the city employee, what department they're in.
I don't know who it is.
Who's the employee? Could you please name that person?
Okay, my fellow council members are saying it's Parks and Rec. So it's not the same department, so it shouldn't be an issue. No one's going to get mad if he votes a certain way.
I think if it were in the same department, I would have some
Yeah.
concerns with that. So.
I'm just checking. I want to protect the employee and the city, so, okay. Well, I think we've handed in our ballots for the first round, so do we need to do like the
Short break
Jeopardy?
while I tally, and then we'll
The
come back.
Jeopardy music? Thank you for accommodating. Look what the mayor's missing. We have so much fun without him. We could take, I guess that would be wrong to take bets on who's going to make it. Just for something to do, no money.
Okay. So round one, we have 5 votes for Ryan Page, and we have 6 votes for Sarah Gustafson. So that's great. I need them back. Where'd you go? And we'll do round 2. We just need to appoint one more person. If you want, I can tell you who got what. for
That would
round
be
one.
helpful, I think.
So Jim Turcott got 1 vote. Ryan Page, as I said, got 5, so he is appointed. Whitney Nagenbauer got 1 vote. Matthew Seymour, none. Richard Molitor, 1. James Orr, 3. Vivian Peterson, 1. Daniel Farmer, none. Christine Curtis, none. Claudia Ellsmore, none. Sarah Gustafson, 6. Jenna Orsman, none. And Joran Clowers, none. So we need one more.
So just check one box.
Yes, just check one box, please. And we'll go round 2.
Can you, Councilmember McAuliffe can't remember, can you tell her what the big top vote getters were? Yeah. Would that be helpful? Top 2. No, I think that.
Sorry, City Clerk, can you turn your microphone on? We can't actually hear you.
I thought it was on, sorry. James Orr had 3 votes. Jim Turcott, 1. Whitney Nagenbauer, 1. Richard Molitor, 1. And Vivian Peterson, 1. You're welcome. Great. Round 2, we had 5 votes for James Orr, so he is our third appointee. And thank you very much. I will be in touch with all applicants to let them know whether or not they were appointed or not, and thank them. And then after that, Dave Boyd will be in touch with all the appointed board members, and he will.
Was there a vote to direct staff?
Not yet.
Okay, just.
Oh, to confirm
We're working
it?
on that, I
Sorry.
promise.
Yeah, to confirm, to ratify it, sorry.
I did want to just say, there were some really, really great candidates. It seemed like everybody just, I hope that if you didn't make it on the board, that you consider applying for another board sometime in the future. It was actually difficult. I know it went by fast, but we were impressed by many of the applicants, all of the applicants. And so please consider in the future applying for another board. We would love to have you participate in the city. So thank you. With that,
Second.
okay, so motion to direct the Shorelines Board to limit their review to the scope of work outlined in this agenda bill, made by Councilmember McNeil and seconded by Councilmember Olson. All in favor, raise your
I'd
hands
like
and say
to
aye.
speak to my
Oh,
motion,
I'm so
please.
sorry. I'm ready to get out of here, apparently.
I'm
Sorry,
ready to
sorry,
go too,
sorry.
but I also wanted to echo what the deputy mayor said. She said it so elegantly. It takes a lot of people within this community to make this community special. So to all those people who don't volunteer all of their time, come in and meet with us on these boards and commission. If you don't make it, please come back. But it takes all of us to make this community a special place. Us 7 up here, we don't make it happen without you. So please do come back. Please apply. Please become part of what we do here to make this a great place for all of us. So I just wanted to leave that. Thank you.
Well said. So with that, all those in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously with Mayor Ream absent and excused. And,
I move we adjourn.
I have one more.
oh, good of the order.
I wanted to give a shout out to Barbara Ramey this week for stepping up and coming and doing TV interviews with us on making Bothell great for a day or a lifetime, as Rosemary put it earlier. I was very early, but I was very impressed by all the interviews and all the great things that are happening around our city. I got an opportunity to watch every one of the council members who gave the interviews, and we have a special thing going on here in Bothell, so I just wanted to give a shout out for Barbara for putting that all together for us. And Nick, congratulations.
Well said. I agree. Barbara really helped us a lot. Live interviews are terrifying in a new and different way for me. So I really appreciated the support, and I thought everyone did a great job. So with that, okay. Motion made by Councilmember McNeil, seconded by Councilmember Olson. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And of course, the motion is not unanimous. Councilmember Agnew in the negative. And Mayor Reum absent and excused. Have a fantastic August. We'll see you in September.